Hi, Caisa.
Hey there.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
All right. So we're gonna talk for just a little while about what's going on in Sweden. You were telling
Yes.
me that in Sweden there's not quite as much panic going on as in Norway and Denmark.
No, we have a different election system. So our electives, they are not elected by the public. The public elects a political party, and then the political party chooses whom or who is going to be at what post. So people or the public, they can't replace a minister. This makes also the ministers, they work for the different agencies. We have like WHO, the European version called ECDC. We also have a health control agency here in Sweden, and all of their data is where we base all our options from. So the decisions that we make. So it's different.
So
Yeah.
currently the universities are closed and theaters are closed, and people like yourself who also work in acting, your work shut down, but the kids are still in school. What's the
The
yeah, the
younger
young
kids.
yeah, so
Yeah.
what's the logic behind that?
The logic behind the younger kids being at school is because they're too young to stay at home without supervision. This is the base of the matter, because many of the people or many of the parents to these younger kids are the ones working in how do you say, like social security areas, like waste disposals, working with food, like either they produce food or they work in the shops and the grocery stores. They work with security as like police and fire departments and of course hospital and the personnel that a hospital needs. And so all of those kids, their parents must go to work. This is why the kids have school still.
Well, of course, it's a great social experiment, because if those kids get their parents sick, then you won't have any of those people around. But I gather you think that maybe Sweden is already practicing a lot more social distancing just by nature, because it's
Yes.
so
Swedish people by nature, we're quite quite cold. We're fun and we can talk and we be all social in many ways, but we don't hug if we're not maybe like raised as such. But we won't hug and we won't kiss on the cheek, and we don't have that kind of like interaction that you have, for instance, in Italy and in France and maybe in the US in many ways. I don't know. We don't do that. And when we, for instance, like if we wait for the bus, we have like yards around us, because nobody stands close to the next person. We stand like within 2 yards of each other waiting for the bus. So we don't interact. And coronavirus is spread by the drops from your breath, for instance, or if someone has like pointed in their eyes and then like taken another person, like touches another person. And we don't often do that. So yeah.
And you're not typically living with old people as much as in, say, Italy. Do you think that's a significant factor?
Yeah,
here?
that's really significant. Nearly all the dead people in Italy has been older people living close to younger ones who has gotten infected, but their infections haven't been, they haven't shown anything, because a lot of people get infected and they don't get anything. They don't get sick as such. They don't show the sickness, and that's why they can go around spreading it.
I actually have been following in Sweden. Some people argue that if you were to close the schools, then because the parents are having to work, then that the kids would end up getting taken care of by their grandparents, which would put them at much greater risk.
Yeah.
Is that a common argument you're hearing in Sweden today?
Yeah, in Sweden today we have an argument, but we have also a ban. So people over 70 aren't allowed to, aren't allowed, but they should stay at home. They shouldn't see their grandchildren. They shouldn't see anyone. Like if they go for shopping, they want them to shop online to get things driven to their door, more like a social security thing, that they shouldn't be out in the public.
So how do you think this is affecting immigrant populations that are living in the immigrant suburbs differently than people in the inner city or in other parts of Sweden?
I think it's like this. Corona got spread by people who had visited countries like Italy, Austria, Switzerland, and China. So all of these people, the ones who were skiing in the Alps, they are not typically the immigrants out in the suburbs. Not typically, because the immigrants in the suburbs doesn't always have that kind of economy that they can go skiing in the Alps. It's very, very expensive to ski there. And so the areas who has been affected is actually the areas where people have maybe a higher salary. And so in the suburbs, the people who has been affected has maybe, if they have been in China to visit family and friends or something like that. But the one who got sick in Stockholm, they had been skiing in the Alps. It was one woman who came home from China. She went to Jönköping, which is like a small rural town in nowhere in the south of Sweden. So we know where we got the infection from and who and how it has spread.
So it does sound like, I mean, right now the United States is on, in a kind of going into lockdown mode. New York and California are locking down, and it's really spreading everywhere. But it sounds like your point of view, at least from being connected and doing communication work with the government, is that things are a little overblown in the rest of the world, and you feel like, at least in Sweden, people are a little bit more relaxed. I mean, obviously you're not having large gatherings, but that people can handle this by just sort of the sort of extending the social distancing that you normally do? Yeah,
both that, and then we have like we have also like this what's it called? Anyway, it's like everyone needs to wash their hands and have hand sanitizers. You have to like show people that you put your hand sanitizer on like at all times. And so that's one of the things that we mainly walk around having, like a hand sanitizer in your hand, like putting it on every half an hour or something like that. It's something like that we do just to show people also that I'm not touching anything that you should get afraid of to touch after me. Like if you're in the supermarket and you buy a milk carton and you take that milk and you accidentally like put your hand towards the other one, then people shouldn't be afraid to take that, because then you have your hand sanitizer.
Can you still buy hand sanitizer in Stockholm?
Yeah, it's actually like this. People were stock buying hand sanitizers and toilet paper and everything like that until we got to know that this is actually produced in Sweden. We produce toilet paper for the world here, so we don't need to stockpile anything of it. So we have everything. It's fine still. Yeah.
We talked earlier a little bit, and you were suggesting that maybe people with immigrant backgrounds are not having as much problem because people are more focused on the virus than on being xenophobic?
Yeah, it's like this. The situation in Sweden has been quite racist at the latest maybe 5 years. It has been the parties that has the racist system within the party, they have been getting more and more people, and so people have been, even I'm mixed, and before this, for 5 years ago, they weren't looking at me like I'm an immigrant. They were seeing me as a Swedish person, but now, like last year, people were looking at me suspiciously, like I was an immigrant and that I was dangerous or something like that. So it has been changed. But the coronavirus makes all these people focusing on the coronavirus. They don't care about the immigrants now because they have like something else to be scared about. Not an immigrant walking down the streets. It's like they don't care about that immigrant. They care about if they get corona or not. So it has been good for us. But I'm joking, of course.
Yeah.
But
Well,
still,
that's Stockholm. What do you think it's like in the rural parts of Sweden? Are people experiencing any panic around this in the rural areas, or is it pretty much just business as usual out in the
it's
small
business
towns?
as usual. In many places, it's business as usual because there aren't that many infected on those places. So a lot of people are escaping Stockholm to go to their country houses because there isn't any diseases in the country, and we don't have any cases out there, at least. And at least people hasn't shown symptoms. And it's dangerous, of course, because coronavirus is how do you say, it's funny like that because you can go spreading corona without knowing that you have it because you don't have any symptoms. But no cases that are known is in the countryside. We just have cases in the larger cities as such.
And as far as you know, it's not really spread that yet into immigrant suburbs where people are hanging out, perhaps with their elderly and your uncles and aunts.
No, yeah, but we also they live like that out of necessity because many of the immigrants who come here, they have a very, very hard time to find work, and so they need to live like 10 people in a 2-bedroom apartment because they can't afford paying the rent otherwise. But I think that no, because many of them, if you can say them and us and such, but I'm not meaning it as a racist comment to this because it sounds like this, but it's just me being not so very good at my vocabulary so I can use the right words. But many of the people that lives in the suburbs, they don't come into town, and it's here in town we have the disease. So
it sounds like what you're saying is that the kind of segregation that exists in Stockholm is perhaps, at least for the moment, working out to the advantage of people in the immigrant suburbs.
Yes.
I
Hopefully.
I
hope I'm right. I'm not sure.
So as we sit here on March 20th, right now, there's about 15 deaths in Sweden, up from I think 9 yesterday. So it's not clear whether you're at just the very, very beginning of a very steep slope, which is starting to be seen elsewhere, or whether the social distancing and the hygiene and generally healthy population and people not living with their parents so much might help avoid the spread of this. Although it's a big social experiment with keeping the kids in school.
Yeah, it is. For me, I could have had my youngest one at home because my older daughter, she is at home. She has homeschooling now. What our problem would be then is that we have 2 young young teen who are sitting with a computer trying to have class, and they would definitely argue. I mean, most certain. And so for me, I rather send my younger one to school where I know that she can be with her friends and that she can have a class with a teacher.
What grade is the cutoff right now? Is it?
It's from 7th grade.
So 7th grade down, they're still in school.
No, I'm sorry. 6th grade
up.
then. Yeah.
So 6th grade down, they're still in school.
Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe we'll check in with you in a few weeks, and we'll see if Sweden is. I mean, it's a really, yeah. I mean, I talked to some people in Denmark. Everything is locked down and everything's closed. I know they're doing that in Norway, and I know that there are obviously some people in Sweden who are very anxious about this. But maybe you will get better herd immunity. Maybe you will get through this in the end. As a result of spreading it more and allowing more immunity to develop. But it's
they had that was the theory from the beginning, so that's why we haven't shut anything down. But they have actually changed it because the virus is it changes, it mutates. So even though we get a vaccine, you can't maybe help the ones who are sick. So they just changed the theory from spreading it a little bit to make people immune to actually doing the reverse. So we don't know. Maybe in 2 weeks, everyone will be at home and it's more a shutdown than before. We have no idea, actually. So,
all right, well,
yeah.
Take care of yourself, please.
Yes, thank you. You too. Yes. All right.
Well, thanks for coming in.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right. Bye.
Bye.